Hello and welcome to this episode of WoSo Sidelines Reports. Today I'm going to do a slightly different podcast because I am going to kind of do a bit of a get ready with me while I do some talking, because when you're doing this as well as working full time, it's a lot. So I really want to talk about what's been going on recently, particularly in the WSL, with players speaking out against their clubs and shock sackings and things that have come out from players like Casey Stoney recently about her time while she was in football, and that's player mental health. Oh my gosh, I've just put my hairbrush down and dropped everything. We'll sort that out later. At the moment, it just doesn't seem like player mental health is being considered when talking about how we treat players. I mean, the probably most prominent example is Chloe Kelly, right? So Chloe Kelly, national superstar, sweetheart of the Lionesses, for her contribution during the Euros. And probably rightly so. You know, she scored the winning goal at the Euros, and she is a good player. And this is coming from a City fan. I think she's a good player, and I think while she's not the best player in the world, you know, she's talented. She's talented, and she makes contributions. We've already seen that at Arsenal with her scoring goals, on her first start, and I thought it was wild that she wasn't being used at City. You know, I thought the link up between her and Mary Fowler could have been really good while we were missing Hemp and Bunny. I think it's difficult when you've got a team with that much talent in it, because realistically, if everyone was fit, City have got a fantastically talented team. I feel like one eye's darker than the other there. Yeah. However, I kind of get you can't play all of your players. And when you do have Lauren Hemp and Bunny, who have been so reliable for City, you want to use them. But there's no reason why, you know, Chloe Kelly could have been used. And when she relies on getting minutes for the national team, you want to use it. Whereas Mary Fowler is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But history has shown that she will be called up to the Matildas, kind of regardless of playtime. And that was the case for Chloe Kelly. You know, she was being called up to the Lionesses regardless of playtime. But Serena did say, actually, she's not getting the minutes. I'm not going to call her up. The only reason she was called up is because of injury. But, you know, we don't see what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what conversations being had. And for her to come out and say, actually, there's more going on behind the scenes, I'm miserable at my club, that seems to me there's more going on than the time that the minutes she's getting, the play minutes that she's getting. And, I mean, I know a lot of staff at City now, because that's where I do most of my reports. It's the club closest to where I live in the WSL. It's also my team. And they seem really, really sad that she's gone. I remember when she left, I asked member of staff, are you okay? You know, it's been a tough week. And the first thing they said was, I just hope she's happy. So, there's obviously more going on behind the scenes. And not every single member of staff is going to have interaction with the players. And not every single member of staff is going to be contributing to a player's unhappiness. Of course not. And there'll always be staff that are on your side or staff that are fighting your corner, because that's just the nature of a workplace, really. So, something was clearly going on. And it could have seemed like a one-off in terms of the situation with Chloe at City was clearly bad. She clearly wasn't happy. She wasn't happy enough to speak out and kind of force that move. You know, we've seen it with Keira Walsh. If a player wants to move and the club doesn't let them, it's rare that a player will come out and actually say publicly, I want to move. People knew for years that Keira Walsh wanted to move and wanted to come back to the WSL. But she didn't publicly force the move. She might have forced the move behind the scenes, we never know. Because she was a very last day of the transfer window move. The point wasn't actually announced until after the transfer window. But for a player to come out and actually say, I want to move, let me move, I can't move, I'm not being allowed to move, and then that move to be made, and for the agent to actually let her do that, things are bad. Things must be bad, right? And from what I've seen, Chloe's a professional. You know, her interactions with fans are probably some of the best. Her interactions with media are probably some of the best. She's a professional. And for her to, you know, newly married, got a home in Manchester, for her to pick up and agree to a loan to Arsenal, yes, it's her old club. Yes, she's got friends and connections there. But for someone to uproot their newly married life, that's a lot. That takes a lot. Especially, you know, in this day and age, regardless of how much money you make, women's players don't make as much as men. So, to very suddenly do that, usually moves are a bit more planned than that. So it takes a lot for her to do. So it must have been, I need to get out. Now again, as I just said, it could have been seen as a one-off, as a player coming out and saying, I need to go. But then we saw it, now I'm recording a week in advance of when I'm actually going to release this episode, but we've seen it this weekend with WoSo, where in a now deleted post, she has called out Manchester United and saying that, I mean, she wasn't as probably explicit as Chloe Kelly, but you know, she's not happy, she's lonely. I think the word she used was antagonising. Correct me if I'm wrong, I probably remembered that wrong actually. But for her to come out and say that too, after such a difficult time, and then delete the post, something's clearly gone on. But then her agent has now said that United had tried to loan her out while she was at her brother's funeral to the US, and that conversations are happening with Gotham. I mean, for your agent to also come out and say, yeah, no, things aren't right, it says a lot. But it talks to a wider picture of Manchester United, with a lot of people that have left United saying exactly what's been going on. So we've had it with Mary Earp saying, you know, the vision's not there. It's not the culture I want to be in. can't remember if Katie Zellum actually said anything explicitly about why she left. But for Katie Zellum to leave, who was United through and through, has been United her entire life, that says something. You know, for me, Katie Zellum was like Leah Williamson. I don't think Leah Williamson will ever leave Arsenal. It's her spiritual home. I thought that would be the case with Katie Zellum. Now, someone like Esme Morgan, who is City through and through, let's be honest, while it was a little bit of a shock that she left City, I can understand that a bit more, because being realistic, she wasn't getting the game time, and with future signings, she probably wasn't going to get much game time. But she's a lioness and incredibly talented. So there was almost a need for her to move. Katie Zellum was the captain. Mary Earps was the starting number one, and realistically was probably always going to be the starting number one while she was there, even though she wasn't actually number one, but you know what I mean. Who else came out last year about it? I put an Instagram post about it. Somebody else made a statement last year, got blended on blusher, while as soon as they left. Let me have a look. Who? Because loads of men came for me when I posted this on Instagram, actually. I post a lot on Instagram. That's the thing, actually. Come and follow me on Instagram, because it's the same as TikTok. All the content's the exact same. But I prefer the stories function on Instagram. I do a lot more stories on Instagram than I do on TikTok. I don't really understand TikTok stories. I probably should. It was Irene. Yeah. She came out with quite a bit of a damning statement about how she felt never valued by the club. So it says a lot. It does say a lot when players are coming out and saying it. So my question is, what are we actually doing to protect the mental health of these players? Because let's face it, in the women's game, as much as clubs try to, their physical health isn't particularly looked after. We look at the rates of female players getting injured compared to male players. And say what you want about Mark Skinner, I think he was very open at the press conference this weekend about players not being looked after on some of their international camps, and that's not to do with the actual international camps themselves. It's more that the playing load on these players is way too much. When we know that women are more likely to be injured as a result of being overplayed, for the amount of playtime they're getting, it's too much. It is too much. Matt Beard said it, Mark Skinner said it, I think Gareth Taylor said it as well. And the players have said it. It's too much when they're being overplayed, that when they're being injured disproportionately. So, if we're already not looking after their physical health, why are we not doing more for their mental health? There was the incident a couple of years ago. Let me just check the actual date of it. I can't remember the actual date. I do prepare things in advance. 2023 Maddie Kuzkat. Player that took a life. The player that died by suicide. September 2023. She played for Sheffield United. Now, the inquest and family have said that Sheffield United was a part of the reason that she died. So when we're getting players dying by suicide, a championship player as well, this wasn't, there wasn't like football was the thing she just enjoyed as a part-time thing. And even so, if football plays a part in that, and you never ever want somebody to die that way. But when football is playing a part in it, there needs to be more done from the top, really, from the FA. The FA needs to be coming out and doing something to protect players' mental health. We are in a mental health epidemic, and there is not enough being done anywhere, realistically. From the government, from social services, from health services, there's so much more to be done. But the actual employers and the FA themselves and the media should be doing more. I mean, we can criticise and we can critique players and managers. But what I also think we need to remember is managers are different from owners. I mean, the thing with United, Mark Skinner probably does have some stuff to answer for, 100%. But the reality is some of those decisions will be being made from the top. And not everything here can be pinned on Mark Skinner, because actually, he's a person. He is a person, and he is, he's got his own family and his own stuff going on. Not that I know him really well. I've met him personally a few times, but we're not besties. But these are people, and a lot of these decisions won't actually be theirs. And 100%, no one is, especially head coach, no one is fully not at fault when things are going wrong in a team. And especially when players are unhappy, there will be questions to be asked, but it's not going to be 100% them. It's like you're in a Siderville. And the thing with Viv Miedemar, there are absolutely questions to answer there, 100%. But it won't have all just been him. And I think if we're going to be serious about helping the mental health of players, we need to look at our institutions more. We need to look at the clubs more, rather than individuals, because that won't help the mental health problem that we're having. And fan culture as well. It's been a topic on a couple of episodes now. The way that Millie Bright has been treated, the way that Bunny Shaw has been treated. There are other questions to answer here on a wider picture. So it's a conversation I think that needs to be opened, and I think needs to be opened relatively soon, if not now. Because these are players, and they're great, and they're professionals, and they're athletes. They are human as well. And I think that's kind of what the past few weeks has shown us, and they've reminded us that they are human. And I think the key thing we need to do is thank Chloe Kelly and Millie Bright and Hisay and Bunny Shaw. We need to thank them for actually coming out and admire that bravery, because it's hard to do. It's hard to come out against the fans, against your employer. Because at the end of the day, that's like me coming out and talking about, I mean, I've got no problems at work and no problems with my employer. But that would be like me coming out against my employer or you coming out against your employer. It's hard to do if you need to do it. And it's rare that people are actually willing to do that. So for them to do that on such a public scale, when you are so in the public eye, it's a brave thing. So thank you for getting ready with me today and listening to me ramble on about player mental health. And I will see you next Tuesday.